So this is what if Deku was Homelander, good version, part 3. Now last time, part 2, I did get kind of confused because I did do pretty much a whole re-recording of the USJ event, but then I realized I already did that in part 2. Now basically, last time I did introduce a new character, aka this universe's version of Black Noir, as he would be a slight rival for Deku in the story. So yeah. So I also, guys, pretty much is not much to say. I am making, oh, was it my official episode 0 or episode 1, the beginning of it, just a little test run of pretty much Marvel House, my new comedy, pretty much, well, my new comedy slash series I'm making on my YouTube channel. If it does good, I'll make a second one, blah, blah, blah. So it's basically just a combination of anime house, video game house, and just action figure skits and pretty much comedy in general. So it's gonna have a lot of original jokes and original clips and stuff like that. Also, I am looking for voice actors because I want to have a lot of different things happening in this series alongside actual stories, kind of like The Office is gonna have actual stories and it's actually gonna touch on some actual real life topics. So it might teach people some lessons or life lessons, I guess. I won't really be focusing that much on it, but at least every episode will have a meaning to it. Now, yeah, so basically, I am looking for voice actors. So if you guys are interested, just go down in the comments and pitch your Instagram so I can message you if you want to be a voice actor. And just pitch your name, not your name, your Instagram link and hit the name of the character you want to voice act. And it can be any Marvel character because I literally have a huge collection. So just name whatever character you want to voice act. So yeah, so I think that's all I have to say. So let's dive right into the video and stop talking real quick and dive into this fanfic. As we start our story off, last time we left off after I mentioned pretty much Black Noir being a part of Class 1A now, as this universe's version of Black Noir will be somewhat similar to the Boys Universe one, but he will have a lot more to him. But we're not going to get into that anymore. Now, basically, we can switch the next following couple days as they are told about the sports festival. As Deku is training about the sports festival, and him basically just pushing his body, because in this world, since quirks are ever endlessly evolving and becoming stronger, Deku has some foes in this universe that can actually, give him a fight that can actually push him and make him stronger. So, Deku in this universe isn't like Homelander. Homelander had no person in his universe that could train him or make him stronger. So, what Deku did, he just trained his body with other pro heroes, and after the whole event, after he would kill the Nomu, he would be able to be called in by All Might. As in this canon, All Might would still choose Mirio to be his successor, but he would also want to train Deku, seeing that Deku's fighting technique was good, it was good and all, but his punches were really hold back. Now, basically, All Might wanted to pretty much train Deku, and over the past couple days, Deku was trained in All Might style, as in Detroit Smashes and other things like that, him using his strength to make wind pressure attacks and other blasts like that. So Deku would be able to mimic All Might type blasts like Deku, Canon Deku, and All Might and the original successors of One for All. So he'd be able to pull off moves like Detroit Smash or Plus Ultra or anything like that. Him being pretty impressed that All Might teach them these things, as All Might would teach him a bunch of other things, and as long as that, pretty much the past couple days, Deku was just taught how to be a little bit better and control his strength away a little less, so he would be able to pretty much take down any villain. As Deku would still be able to get injured in this universe since, well, the My Hero universe is ever ending in the possibilities of quirks. And since quirks are literally being born every single day, I'm positive that, well, I'm very much positive that somebody out there in the quirk world could possibly keep on becoming stronger and stronger and stronger than Deku could ever be. And that would be a little bit of, diversal, because in this universe, Deku, if he keeps on training and trains and stretches his body and his muscles, and actually finds a way how to train his muscles and become stronger, since Deku's already peak physical human strength in terms of physique, basically Deku just being a peak physical human health in terms of physique and muscle mass and everything like that, him having the same type of body that he has in canon, but a little bit more perfected, and All Might and was it Homelander esque. So basically during this time, Deku would have trained with All Might a little bit on the side, and also would have trained with some, pretty much interns from VOT that were trying to get into the Seven, as they were a little bit older than Deku. As Deku would train with them, basically getting more, pretty much fighting hand to hand fighting, pretty much experience, as he wouldn't use his full strength, just trying to learn the coordination and the hand to hand fighting technique because he didn't want to be unprepared if somebody he ever fought was at the same level of strength as him. As he would fight and spar with All Might, as you would see that All Might was near his strength somewhat and was able to give him a little bit of a challenge, but if Deku went all out, he would easily kill All Might. But basically what happened is Deku was about at 50% while he was taking on All Might. And All Might at his prime could possibly kill Deku if he had help. Like, spoiler, just skip like 5 seconds from now. Basically, and then 5 seconds from now. Basically, well, put it simple, they had like I ain't gonna say who, but let's just say a certain three group of soups jumped the absolute dog water out of Homelander. So if All Might would have help by other heroes, he could have jumped Deku and kill him because it is power in numbers. But on his own, I'm pretty sure even in his prime, All Might wouldn't be strong enough to take on Deku with full strength. So that's what Deku's implying here, because if he went all out, he could easily kill All Might and just, take him out. But he was getting a challenge from him. So he was training and getting better in his strength. So doing this, we could switch to Deku. Deku getting ready and everybody getting ready for the sports festival. As they would be waiting in their waiting room, as Deku would have his mom pretty much in the stadiums instead of watching it at home, as he would have been able to get her a ticket or a pretty good seat. Now Deku would have, his sports festival uniform on. So Deku would put on his sports outfit and basically would have gotten ready. As Deku would just have his sleeves rolled up and him having his iconic red high top shoes on. As Deku, everybody else would have gotten ready, as Deku would have pretty much just been chilling, trying to control his strength and trying to calm down. As Deku later on in the story will have a lot of, and I said this a lot of times, a lot of internal struggles with his morals, like what is truly bad or what is truly good. So basically, we would see that Deku went got ready, and pretty much Miss Midnight would have brought everybody to the stadium, telling them pretty much their first match, as they would be told that they were going to do an obstacle race to the stadium from the other side of the pretty much sports festival, as they would have gotten ready and set to go, as Todoroki off the bat would have froze the floor, as Deku would just flew upwards before the ice can catch his feet, as Deku would pass by Todoroki, pretty much flying or torpedoing right towards the zero pointer, going right towards his head, making it fall down, as Todoroki would still freeze it on a tilt before it hits the ground, as it would have hit the ground and still falling over Tetsu and Kirishima, as they would still bust through it, as they would have still buzzed through it, surviving, pretty much showing off their quirks. As Deku would be zooming through the floor, or zooming through the pretty much obstacle course, as he would not want to cheat, as he would just go on foot from that point on. As Deku would jump to pillar on the pretty much more rocky type pillar obstacle course area, as he would have just been running over jump over that, as he would be easily running over this, as he would eventually super jump like Hulk leap all over until he hits the beginning of the mine area, as he would just walk over the mine, setting them all off, him being barely phased at all, him just crumbling the bombs underneath his feet, his suit being a little bit slightly pretty much dampered up, but nothing too much. Him just setting off all the bombs in one straight line down, as he would just use his laser vision to set a fire path right in that line, right down between, to try to slow down the others. As he would pretty much fly off, as he would get first place about, let's say, 30 minutes before anybody else would get near him. As everybody else would show up, Todoroki and Bakugo getting second and third, as everybody else would have came in, fourth to fifth to sixth, blah blah blah. So basically, Deku would have, gotten first place, him getting given the bandana. Now, I do not like this part of the sports festival. So, the cavalry battle, I do not like this part of the sports festival. It's so boring and just weird. So, Pit simple for the narrating part of this, Deku just flies up into the air, solo team, and just sits up there for the rest of the match. As he flies like right over, like an inch right over or right above the pretty much contestants, as he would just fly up, not enough to be out of the stadium, but enough to still be in, but not being able to be catched by anybody, no matter how big or how fast they might be, or how, strong they might be. And there's no other person pretty much right now in the Class 1B, Class 1A, or anybody at the sports festival that can fly. So, Deku just chills up there. As for the 1v1s, we get switched to the waiting room. As Deku's waiting in the waiting room, just chilling actually. Him using his super hearing to just try to figure out what was the next thing to do. As he would figure out that something was wrong, as he would figure out that there was some sort of high pitch frequency in the pretty much a very low high pick, a very low pretty much frequency that can only be heard by people that had some sort of hearing quirk, specifically being made to block out people's hearing quirks to keep the next matches a secret, as Deku would have smirked, saying pretty clever. As for Deku's super hearing, he can only hear people when they're in a room without loud music. Like he can hear them, but he can't hear them clearly. So he can hear them, but if they have some sort of dog whistle on them or anything like that when he's really focusing on his super hearing, that can hurt his pretty much earlobes and actually stun him for a stun him for a little minute, but not too much to actually get him vulnerable. It's enough to make him be disorientating for you to get a head start and run away from him, but nothing too much. And if you are strong enough and you are able to block off his, pretty much senses and use that against him, you could damage Deku, but not too much. So during this time, Deku had just been sitting in the waiting room, just scrolling through TikTok, as pretty much after that, they would all get called in to do the matches. Now before that, as they were getting called to do the matches, Bakugo would still make the whole thing alongside Todoroki, both of them doing the same thing separately on the way Deku was going down the halls. As the first one that would come towards Deku when he was walking down the halls, Bakugo, as Bakugo would have told him that he was going to win against the cavalry battle against him, and the 1v1 battle against him, and take him down, proving that he's the best. As Deku would have looked at him and scoffed, basically him thinking about killing him, but him just brushing that idea out of his mind, him being very scared of how he just thought about that right in his head. As Deku, as he was thinking about this, his eyes would glow bright red, scaring Bakugo a little bit, as Bakugo would back up and say, just know I'm gonna beat you, as he would have walked off, kind of stuttering a little bit. As Deku would have pretty much just shake his head, trying to turn off his laser vision, his eyes going back to normal, as he just would have walked off, being very confused on why he just got that angry for no reason. As Deku would have walked off, as he would have been sitting down in the bleachers, as pretty much they would get told about the first pretty much 1v1 battles, as they would have, well, happened the same way. Deku would still go against mind control quirk guy. I don't remember his name. Shinso? I think so. Yep, Shinso. As Shinso and Deku would have started their match, as Shinso would have started to taunt Deku, pretty much saying all this other stuff about his mom being, pathetic and weak, and pretty much, all that other stuff. Basically, Deku being very, just not trying to fall for it, as Deku would have still been told not Tanjiro, but Tanjiro, I don't know, I don't remember his name, the teleport guy. He isn't really even relevant in the big grand scheme of the story, so I'm not really gonna bother remembering his name. But basically doing this, Deku would have looked at pretty much him and just wouldn't be taunted by him as he's walking towards him slowly, about to just smack him and knock him out or tap him on the forehead like Smallville Superman because not trying to kill him, just knock him out. As Deku would walk towards Shinso, trying to ignore his, constant bickering, as he would eventually pretty much say something about his mom that Deku couldn't let slide, that he couldn't let slide. So he just went off. He started to cuss out Shinso, going full on Homelander. I mean, from a straight comic book panel. Started to straight up cuss at him vigorously. Eventually, the mind control would have set in. Shinso would have told Deku to walk out walk out the ring. As Deku would have started to walk out the ring, as Deku's mental state would be too broken, not broken, but he would be too, confused. Because Deku would have a half of him somewhat different, more corrupted, as it would have broke Deku out of this state of mind, as Deku would be very much confused on what just happened. As his eyes would go bright red out of nowhere, him not recognizing or him not noticing that his laser vision was on, as he would have looked over, as he would have almost cut Shinso in two, as it would be a very thick block of cinder from cinder block that he would use his power to block the laser vision a little bit, as Deku's laser vision wouldn't be a full blast. As Shinso would be pushed back over just pure shock, as Deku would have just turned off his laser vision, him telling, Cinder Block that he didn't know what happened. As Cinder Block would have told him just to continue on with the match, would not let that happen anymore. As Deku would have walked off, as Deku would be in the waiting rooms, him trying to break off this whole mental fight he was having. As Deku would try to calm his head, eventually him being called in for another 1v1, as Deku would be called in for another 1v1 against Black Noir. As Black Noir and Deku would start to fight, oh man, I forgot to narrate Black Noir's whole thing. For the cavalry race, Black Noir got 4th place, and for the cavalry pretty much fight, the obstacle race, pretty much Black Noir got 4th place, and for the cavalry battle, I'm not even gonna mention what he got. He did get good though. So pretty much what happened, Black Noir would get into a fighting stance, Deku would get into a fighting stance. For some reason, him feeling a little bit threatened by him. As Black Noir wouldn't say anything, as they would have ran towards each other, starting to fight. As they would have started to fight at each other, Deku being tossed around by his cape, not his cape, because he wouldn't have a cape, he would be in a sports outfit. As Deku would just be, started to box with Black Noir, punching fist, throwing fist, and pretty much pushing each other down to the ground. As Black Noir would have started to fight against Deku. As this version of Black Noir, since he wouldn't be in his hero costume, as his hero costume in this universe would just be his comic book version of his hero costume, just a straight up, like a Kevlar, plain, skin tight black suit. That would be like more of a morph black suit. It would be somewhat exactly like his suit in the boys comic book, but just with a purple tint on it, like it was in the comics. It just being a little bit more textured, as it would have the same texturing as like a baseball, and that was it. Like a basketball, or the same texturing like Spider-Man's suit from Amazing Spider-Man 1. So pretty much this version of Black Noir would just have the same suit as he had in the comics. Him having the ability of Black Noir's base powers, but with the ability to summon knives and shurikens and pretty much long, pointy knife arrow type things, just weapons, but nothing like guns, bazookas, or anything. Just only weapons that have some sort of sharp end to them, like katanas, shurikens, or blades, or knives. So stuff like that. So basically, Deku and Black Noir would have started to fight, as Deku would have noticed that Black Noir was actually pretty strong, and he had way more fighting skill and experience than him, even though he trained with All Might and a couple other pro heroes that are trying to get into the 7. As Deku would start to get barraged with punches, kicks, stabs, and other things like that, as Deku basically would have eventually been overpowered, as he would start to bleed, as Black Noir would have been punching vigorously upside Homelander's forehead. As Deku would have gotten pissed, as he would have shot off a laser blast, cutting off Black Noir's arm. As everybody in the stadium would be shocked, as Black Noir would have grown back his arm, as in this canon, Black Noir would have a very insanely OP healing factor. somewhat like Deadpool's. As Black Noir would have grabbed a knife, as he would have chucked it towards Deku, as Deku would have dodged it, as it came back because it would have some sort of very, very thin string on it that Deku couldn't even see with his supervision. As Black Noir would have pretty much tossed it back towards him, as it would cut Deku by the back of the neck, as Deku would be very much confused on why he was even bleeding. As only people that were incredibly stupidly strong, god tier level strength could even cut him, and especially not even a blade could cut him. No normal blade at that. As Black Noir would have got the blade, as it would be doused in some sort of blue liquid, as it would be a blue liquid modified to counteract the pretty much powers or counteract the effects of Compound V, basically making anybody it cuts temporarily turn off their powers for the next 5 minutes. As Black Noir would get into a fighting stance, as Deku would get into a fighting stance, because, well, Deku started to realize that he was getting beat. As Black Noir took away Deku's powers for these next 5 minutes, simply for the fact that Black Noir knew Deku's full strength he couldn't compete with, but Deku at his normal holding back strength he could easily surpass. So Black Noir started to fight against Deku. As Deku would start to get barraged in punches and started to get jumped down to the ground, as he would start to get pummeled down, as eventually for the next 5 minutes, Deku would just try to hold in there, not trying to knock out or not trying to pass out, as Deku would be brutally messed up, as Black Noir was about to finish the last blow, as Deku would refuse to pretty much give up, as everybody in the stadium would be very much confused at this, as Deku's powers would eventually kick in, him shooting the laser beam right towards Black Noir's chest, taking him out, and, well, similarly to the crowd, killing him. As Black Noir would regenerate the hole in his chest back to his skin, or back to his, normal chest, as Black Noir would get up, and him basically going and pretty much losing that match. As Black Noir would get a replacement from his suit from a nearby person that was working with Vought that was in the stands. As he would get a replacement for his suit, it just being the exact same copy as his original suit. Now, Deku would be very much confused on how that even worked, as in the waiting room later that after that match, after every other match would happen, Deku would instantly go after Black Noir and would have cornered him in the corner, basically saying, "What the heck was that all about? And what did you use on me?" Basically, Deku getting really pissed about the laser Black Noir again, as pretty much Deku would have been told by Black Noir in a note to stay calm and to talk to him. As Black Noir would have shown him a recording pretty much, or an audio recording of him standing in front of a camera with speech to text on, as would tell Deku a super complicated explanation on how Black Noir is sent here by Vought. They keep an eye on you when they eventually become your partner, or even close as your best friend, to pretty much keep you in the right and to try to stop you from becoming some sort of mad tyrant. As Deku would recognize or pretty much understand that, because Deku knows how strong he is and how powerful he would be if he just went off the rails. As Deku would start to, go deeper and deeper into the whole super complicated explanation Black Noir was giving him in this audio speech to text message, as Deku would eventually realize what he was trying to say. As Black Noir would be there for Deku to be his, I guess, partner or to cover up something he could have done if Black Noir, wasn't, somewhat immortal. As Black Noir could be killed if he was disintegrated to nothingness. But if it's any part of Black Noir's body still left, even a speck of blood, he can regenerate from that in a matter of a week or months. As Black Noir can literally heal from one ash, it would take at least a year for Black Noir to regenerate his whole body from one ash. So yeah, so basically during this time, Deku would have just been, chilling basically in the waiting room with Black Noir, and Black Noir and Deku talking and mainly just, communicating, as they would eventually have some things in common and become kind of somewhat friends, I guess. As Deku would actually warm up to Black Noir. As Black Noir would have told Deku that he couldn't, pretty much expose too much about Vought's plan for you, but we can say that they have big plans for you. As Deku would say, cool. As Deku would just, pretty much throw us out of the window. As he would sit down, they would start to chill more and more, eventually them being called in, or Deku being called in for a 1v1. As Deku would go up against Todoroki, just like in canon. As Deku would be kind of, happy, trying to chill his mind and clear his mind, as Deku would get into a fighting stance with Todoroki. As Deku would look at Todoroki and basically would have looked at him, giving him a kind of glare as they would have started, and Todoroki would have shot off a huge iceberg towards Deku, as Deku would just fly towards it, going supersonic right towards Todoroki, about to knock him out of the ring just by one little tug or push, as Todoroki out of nowhere would have seen that he was about to get pushed out by Deku, as he would have used his full power in that quick minute, literally overdrive, or putting his quirk in the overdrive, starting his awakening move out of nowhere, pushing Deku back in the middle of the in the middle of the court, or in the middle of the ring, as he would have gotten hit with a full blast of Todoroki's awakening move, as it would be a little bit 2 times stronger because of adrenaline. As Deku would just be standing there, his suit being completely burned off, being butterball naked, as most of the girls in the stadium would be kind of oohing and awing, and all the girls in class, when they would be closing their eyes, some of them just opening their fingers to make it look like they were closing their eyes. As Deku would be naked on live television, as Deku would have looked at pretty much Todoroki saying, impressive. As Todoroki would have getting blasted out of the ring, as Deku would use a sonic clap, getting him out of the ring, as Deku would win that match. As Deku would get another pair of clothes, him being on pretty much exact same replica of his his original sports outfit, but his shoes still being burned to a crisp, so he would have to continue the rest of the match barefoot. So Deku pretty much went back and talked to Black Noir, as Black Noir and Deku wouldn't be best friends, but they would be associates, and Deku would, at some point later on in the future, count on Black Noir. As Black Noir would have told Deku that in an audio message, basically saying that we'll always pretty much somewhat be together. As he would, give him a little dab up, basically insinuating that Deku is his friend, to him at least, to Deku at least. As Black Noir would walk off, him muttering the words, "So you think," insinuating something's gonna go down later on in the series with Deku and Black Noir. But that's for at least part 6 or 7. So, guys, don't, hope you guys don't pretty much lean too much into that. But something is gonna go down between Deku and Black Noir later on in the series. Now, during this time, Deku would pretty much get ready, as Deku would have gone against Bakugo. Now for Black Noir would have been out of the match, so he wouldn't be, in the same level of fighting as Deku. As Deku would have gotten ready and basically got into the match with Bakugo, as Bakugo would have conjured up some explosions, him getting really pumped up, going full out on Deku. As he would have started the match, Deku walking towards Bakugo, as Bakugo would have bolted towards him, throwing every last bit of explosion power he has into Deku's face. As Deku would be dodging more explosions left and right, but someone is taking them over and over, as he would get pushed back once by a huge explosion with both hands, like a Kamehameha explosion, as Deku would be pushed back about a foot, as Deku would be kind of impressed by Bakugo's power, as Bakugo would be out of breath, exhausted, and overall looking like he's dying, as he would be shattering or vibrating his bones, as he would be overusing his quirk, as he would be hurting himself just try to take down Deku, as Deku would be not even hurt, as he would be slightly tickled, because remember, Deku has superhuman durability and is somewhat just a complete paste and copy of Superman's powers. A little bit weaker though. So Deku just looks at Bakugo and slaps him upside the forehead, knocking him out with some sort of superhuman strength, as he wouldn't be full on, super strength. He would just use a little bit of a dumbed down version of his strength, just being able to knock out Deku. Bakugo. As Bakugo being knocked out by a pimp slap by Deku when the smoke would clear from Bakugo's explosion, as Deku would fly off out of the ring after Bakugo would get knocked out, winning the ring, or winning the match, as Deku would get first place and Bakugo second place. As they would see that as the sports festival would end, as we would get switched to the League of Villains, as the League of Villains would be talking about Deku and how he's very much, very, very much impressive, that his powers are incredibly incredible, as they would want him on his team. As during this time, Deku would be, in the waiting room getting his stuff together to leave and go to the house with his mom. As later that, pretty much later that day, Vought would have helped out Deku and his mother to move out of their house immediately in like a whole day, as they would have moved into a really nice penthouse. Something like this. As Deku's mom, and him would be living in somewhat straight up luxury, as they would be just chilling in this penthouse. As Deku would have a better room, as the room would just be, just like, let's say, his room would be as big as an average suburban living room. So it would be pretty big, as it would just be flooded with pretty much all my merch. Not flooded with all my merch, but just flooded with all sorts of different hero merch, alongside some custom figure of him that Vought made as a investment in him, as it would be a little tiny Deku Homelander figure, as Deku would be pretty impressed by this. Now, basically doing this, we get switched back when we get back to school, as Deku would walk into class 1A, as the class would have been talking about their, internships, as pretty much they would be talking about their internships, but later that day, or later on, after they were talking about their internships, Deku would be told or asked up to the class to say what would his superhero name be, or his hero name be, as Deku would be looking at the, pretty much bored, as he would try to remember a word, something they called him when Vought, overall, let's just say, made him, as Deku would be thinking about it more and more, eventually him recognizing a word that he very much has some sort of liking to, as he would say, the Homelander, as Deku would have his name be Homelander, as they would have been pretty surprised, and some people in the classroom would have said that's a pretty cool name, as Deku would have said thanks, as everybody else would make their same names, as Black Noir would still have his hero name be Black Noir, as his real name would be like Jeffrey or Noir or something. Pretty much Black Noir's real name in this canon would be Noir, but his hero name is going to be Black Noir. But most likely everybody in the pro hero world is probably going to call him Noir, because it's not as long as Black Noir. I'm saying Black Noir and Noir way too many times, but whatever. So basically doing this, I'm going to leave it off here, guys, because I don't want to spoil too much, and I want to have a lot of juicy things in season, or not season, but a lot of juicy things in episode 4 and 5, because episode 5, just a little bit of disclaimer, episode 5, something's going to go down, something big is going to go down in episode, or part 5, so just be prepared for that. In part 4, I'm going to set up that whole big climactic event Deku's going to have to deal with, and it's going to be a turning point for Deku to figure out what person he is going to be, a hero or a villain. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, because I can describe it as always, guys. Have a blessed day.